We're doing another podcast from the trade show floor here at Trees and Utilities. With us now is Jennifer Whitacre, who is Senior Director of Strategic Accounts at NV5. Welcome. Appreciate your coming and joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Start by giving us a little bit of background on yourself and NV5, and we'll go from there.
Okay. My background is LiDAR. I've been working with LiDAR since 2000. So,
Wow.
Yeah, I started with 3 ball space engineers back years ago. So learned LiDAR from ground up out in the field, and then have worked my way through technical, field operations, working in operations with writing presentations, proposals, contracting, to project management, and just kind of I've done pretty much the whole workflow for LiDAR and remote sensing. So that brought me out to California. I'm currently working with NV5 Geospatial out of the Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah, good. And you're here because you're presenting, right?
I am presenting, yes, with Eric Brown tomorrow on remote sensing and insurance, and how to bringing down insurance rates because of the we've had a ton of issues, right, with wildfire.
We know
and
Eric well, yes.
Extremely expensive insurance rates and hard to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, even in California where I live, even with our homes, we're losing our insurance due to the insurance.
It's a real problem.
It's a huge
it's a problem that the whole industry is facing, because it's also made being able to price projects uneconomic. And so there's a bit of a complexity with utilities and the people that can provide services, because insurance is just, there's a concern. And I think there has to be a bigger conversation around that. So that's great that you guys, we had Eric Brown, and Eric's a regular guest on the podcast, and we had Neil Fisher as well. And we were talking a little bit about the insurance. So that's great that you guys are focusing on that today.
So can you give us a quick recap of your presentation?
Well, Eric will be doing the meat and potato portion of that presentation. I'm supporting him on his program and what we've been doing together. Since 2017, we've been providing remote sensing and putting together this really robust year-over-year data collection that he's able to quantify, removals, right? Mitigating risk, helping to bring down those insurance rates. And so we can go in and I basically state with the LiDAR data how many trees have been removed. You have beautiful visuals that help tell a story to folks who don't maybe understand the technology or what it's doing, but it reports out, it's unbiased, it's highly, highly accurate, and it's a good story to tell to your insurance folks. And then he'll carry on with the conversation about what they actually talk about behind closed doors on, working with the insurance companies and getting those rates down.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you've been touching LiDAR since 2000, which frankly, it's a little unusual. I haven't met too many people that have been that invested in it for as long as you have. What drove you to sort of want to play in the space that early when it wasn't so popular?
It was an accident.
Most of the good opportunities
totally
are
honest,
accidents. Right?
I worked for the National Weather Service. I was meteorology. That's what I went to school for.
Okay.
And I was working at the National Weather Service, and I remember I was just kind of bored. It was my first job out of college, and it was very bureaucratic. And so for me, I was like, oh, there's got to be something else. And I remember GIS when I was in school, and I wanted to take the class, but it was the very beginning of ArcGIS. And so I went back to school for my GIS certificate, and then found a job. I was hired on the phone from a job I found probably on monster.com or something at the time, working with LiDAR. And they basically said they will teach me. And so that's where it started. And then working with sensors back then, I think we operated maybe the first or second system that rolled off the line, right? It was little tiny 5 kilohertz systems, and now we're at unspeakable technology changes from how so it's fascinating to me.
So how would you describe NV5's kind of core business?
So NV5, we're a full service mapping company, right?
Okay.
So we acquire data, we do analysis on the data, and then we answer questions. So we own and operate our own aircraft. We have dozens of sensors from LiDAR, digital imagery, hyperspectral, and we take these sensors and put them on various platforms, helicopter, aircraft, mobile, and then make the project fit I guess we have our tool belt where we can take those systems and fit it to the correct project. And then we take all that data, we analyze it, and then the answering is we kind of work with, we're more, I want to say we're consultative. And so we do have programs where we work to help build out large-scale veg management programs or asset management programs.
Specific to the data side of it, though.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, on like helping the utilities move forward with the data. And, we don't just drop it off at the doorstep and say, hey, we're done. We're here. We're here for the long haul.
There seems to be a lot of interest, obviously, in data and how you can acquire that data, the use of this technology. One of the challenges I've constantly heard from utilities and in the market is that the data is acquirable, but the turnaround time for providing analysis on that data in a meaningful format tends to be a bit of a challenge.
Probably the biggest
How have you guys
we hear.
I agree.
How have you guys addressed that? And what is your typical solve for that challenge?
So we're tackling it a couple of different ways. So we started our rapid reporting, which is we fly, and within 2 weeks of that data being collected, say for vegetation, we turn around a rapid product that basically states the worst of the vegetation out there, right? Things that need to be mitigated immediately. And so you have actionable data within 2 weeks of that data collection.
Okay.
And then obviously the production side is still slower. We're taking all that data, it's running through our process, and we do typically start delivering data 6 to 8 weeks after that first data collection. And we can do rolling deliveries, but one of the other things that we're focusing on is moving to more cloud processing to try to speed all that up with hopes of someday getting to that real time, right? I mean, and that's like the point where everybody would like to be. It's just, baby steps.
The utilities have to be paranoid about security of data.
Yeah, and honestly, the whole security side, that all goes through our IT.
It is generally a pretty daunting space because the data and the way it gets collected is, there's just so much of it.
Volume of data.
The volume of data, there's so much of it. But
it is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
The amount of space that it takes just on our computers and our server space. I mean, we have to move it off of server space at some point, and we archive. It's so much data. Because we may have, 15 large projects going at one time. And so everybody's trying to work on that data. It takes a vast amount of storage space.
Maybe you can help the audience better understand some of the challenges that you guys face. Data aside for a second, in the role that you guys play with utilities and with utility clients, what are some of the challenges surrounding the FAA and the beyond visual line of sight and having technology upgrades and owning fleets that have to be updated? Your business, how do you guys manage through some of those challenges, and what are some of the critical things that get in your way?
So one of the things on technology, right? We kind of pride ourselves on, we're big. So we have a lot of access to different manufacturers. We get to test data a lot, different sensors. But we typically have to rotate our sensors fairly often because what might be great right now isn't the newest in 2 years. Right.
Yep.
So we're always looking at technology upgrades.
Got it.
Right. And that's not cheap. That's, it's an added cost that I don't think people think about. One of the things I think people might not understand is the the aviation side of it, the data collection, acquiring, like when we're working, say, with a fixed wing aircraft, and we have to work with FAA and we have to work with the utility and then maybe other stakeholders to alert them of what's going on, right? Because if you have things flying above your head, more so with helicopters than the fixed wing, but we're still always working with FAA. Airspace can be a challenge, Air Force bases that we might have to fly around or over. But the fact that all of these aircraft have to go in maintenance. And I don't think people take that into consideration, that there's downtime, that we have to take the aircraft down, get an oil change every so many hours. And I don't think that is often understood, why aren't you flying today, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking out my window and it's sunny. Why are you not up in the air?
And that's the client.
Yeah,
the client's expectation.
Agreed. The client, because you can sit and you can look and say, hey, it's perfect weather. Why aren't we flying? But that's just a communication. We have to keep up with, letting them know what's the progress of the project. But I do think that's one of the, one of the miscommunications, I think, with having the acquisition side of things is the whole maintenance of everything.
Right. Are drones a part of your portfolio as well?
We do have drones.
Okay.
And that group works right now with our NV5. So NV5 Geospatial is a wholly owned subsidiary of NV5 Inc., which is a much larger company that has engineering. They help do a lot of gas work and undergrounding, right? Wildfire hardening, the engineering design portion of things, where we don't do any of that, right? We're not stamped engineers. We can take data products up to the point of where it needs to go now to the engineer.
I got it.
And so that group then can take that on.
From a design perspective.
And our drone group right now is with that portion of the company.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, very interesting.
You talk about real-time data being somewhere down the road.
Right.
Where do you think this is going? What else is changing
in
technology?
The other thing I'd like to see is more live. Like you're out flying video and you're getting live feeds. So you could have somebody sitting, for emergency management support, right? Like say you have a lineman or somebody doing a desktop review after an event, say it's a PSPS event like in California with wildfire, and somebody is now sitting at a desk as this live feed of video is coming in from out in the field, and they can be doing a visual inspection to get those circuits back online if they'd been shut off during an event, right? So a lot of it is more speeding up the process, looking at other technologies. There's a lot of different things out there. SAR, there's satellite. Satellite is progressing. At some point, I think it does a really good job of trending data, tree health, things of that nature.
So Jennifer, in your role, is your role more focused on the management of your existing client portfolio, or is it also to help identify new technologies and new partnerships? Can you maybe share with the audience the full scope of how you touch the industry today?
Me or my entire?
No, you.
We're interested in you.
Me. So I'm a little bit of all of that.
Okay.
Right. So I run our West Coast, and I work with a lot of larger utilities along, from Washington down to Southern California, and we're out into Colorado. I think my territory goes up to Colorado. And so a lot of it is working with existing clients and helping them become more programmatic on what they want to do. They know they want remote sensing and LiDAR, but they're not sure how to get there. Maybe we're doing small little projects here and there, and they want to turn that into more of an annual cadence.
Yeah.
But how do I get from where I am now to where I want to be? So that's a lot of what I help with.
The decision maker within the client, because you're dealing with technologies and data, are the decision makers more the IT and the technology leadership, or is it the operational leadership?
I've seen it both.
And both, okay.
Yeah, so we also have software, and it's our own web-based platform for visualization, data management, and a lot of that will go through IT, and then a lot of the remote sensing. Usually, I'm dealing more and more these days with remote sensing PMOs, where the utility is standing up its own remote sensing group. But otherwise, it is working with operations and the veg management group or the asset management group on putting together programs.
Given in your territory, is there a client in the market that you would say is maybe best in class or has really adopted the most open way of thinking in terms of how they look at technology, the data, et cetera? Who's the most advanced, in your opinion, in the market?
That's a very good question. And I'm going to say all of our groups that actually have decided to start working with technology. I feel like a lot of utilities are very open to piloting new things. And if they're already taking the jump into using the remote sensing, the LiDAR, the digital imagery, they're more open to trying new things like, hyperspectral for tree species. We've been doing that with, several different utilities. Taking, one of the things that a lot of groups are doing now, it might have been a VM program, but now that data is kind of being collected so it can be leveraged across the entire enterprise. So other groups can take advantage of the data that's being collected. And so now maybe your engineering group is using that data to update their PLS CAD files, or maybe Hydro's taking that data and looking at, some dams and distributions using it for assets. So, there's a lot of different use cases for that data that is collected once.
Yeah.
Where are we with species ID?
So it's out there. Right.
Is it accurate?
The last project that I had, we had a 92%.
Okay. Wow.
But what we're doing is, we're looking at 5 species. We don't recommend
Understood.
looking at 10, 30 different, you might have a whole hit list of trees you want to identify, but that will muddle up your model.
Right.
It's not going to be able to focus in on the results that you're looking for. And I think that's where your accuracy starts dropping. So we like to look at smaller
that makes
groupings.
sense. And that covers majority of the workload.
Yes, and also for large areas, you have to look at different ecoregions too, right? Because all trees aren't the same in different areas. Like in California, for instance, there's coastal and there's inland in the Central Valley area, and there's the Sierras, and everything is different.
We've seen a lot of, and I'm sure you've seen this in California, given it's also a technology hub, a lot more money from the VCs and the private equity firms flowing into the space. So a lot of competitive players out there doing similar things.
Yes.
You shared with us what NV5 focuses on, but maybe you can leave us with the unique value proposition that separates you from the marketplace.
Well, I do believe that NV5 Geospatial is unique in the fact that we can scale. We do very, very, very large programs. And I don't want to say that we're the only ones that can do that,
right.
But I feel like that's where we really excel, is being able to take tens of thousands of miles of transmission or distribution and get everything out the door on time, on budget,
all that stuff.
All that great stuff, but get it so that it's actionable for the clients.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good.
very cool.
So when's your presentation?
My presentation is tomorrow at 11:30.
This was your dry run.
Yeah, definitely.
No,
This is great.
this was great.
Really
Thank you for making time. It's a fascinating space that you guys are leading, and we really enjoyed kind of learning about you and learning about your company. And thanks for doing this.
Well, I greatly appreciate you guys reaching out and asking me to be part of
No,
this.
of
This
course.
has been fun.
It was
This
good
is
to
awesome.
meet you.
Thanks, Jennifer. I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you. That's it for this episode of Trees and Lines, brought to you by Iapetus Holdings. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify.
If you have any questions or comments on any of our episodes or ideas for topics or guests, we'd love to hear from you. Please contact us at treesandlines@iapetusllc.com. We'll chat with you soon.